Welcome to the Ardan Labs podcast. Our special guest today is Zack Holland. Zack, wow, dude, thank you for coming on today and chatting with us.
Of course. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, man. So, give everybody the 2 minute spiel on what Zack Holland is doing today. Don't stay in the present, okay? Because remember, I'm going to put you in the time machine, and I don't want you to cheat here yet. So just stay in the
Yeah.
present.
All right. Well, in the present, I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Avery AI. We call it the AI marketing workspace, solving the problem of, traditionally marketers have to spend a massive amount of their time flipping between 10 specialized tools, freelance marketplaces, project management tools, all to just get stuff done that isn't very exciting. And because we take so much time away from being creative and strategic. So at Avery, it's one marketing workspace to be able to strategize and create content with AI, but then also have that AI match you up with great human experts for things that you need, and then to all collaborate together in one space. So that's what I'm doing with a great group of about 15 people here in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, you're in Brooklyn, man. That's cool. I grew up on the island of New. I always say the island of Long, and the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
reason
the island of Long, indeed.
the island of Long, because I went to school in SUNY Potsdam, all the way upstate, if you know where that is.
Hmm.
And when I used to tell people I was from the island, they'd be like, "What island?" Okay, from the island of Long,
Yeah,
but
you got the island of Long, and you got what people call Manhattan now, which is Work Island.
but oh, it's cool. But I spent a lot of time in Boston, but I mean Boston. Dude, where's my head? Brooklyn.
Come on.
I spent a lot of time there, but it's a cool space, cool place to have a startup actually.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, a burgeoning tech scene, not like anything near established like San Francisco or even Manhattan, but a lot of creatives. It's traditionally a design strong borough, and so building and marketing and AI, it's a fun place to be in a more kind of creative environment.
Is your platform also delivering that content across the social medias and
Oh
email and
yeah, yeah, and a
yes?
huge thing for us, if people remember one thing about Avery, it's that a lot of AI, especially in marketing, is kind of built to replace people. It's a big concern. Oh, am I going to lose my job, or are people, is the AI coming for me? Everything we build at Avery is to make marketers superhumans. I mean, you get all this infrastructure on engineering, Cursor, Lovable, these things that make engineers 100x engineers. We want to do the same thing for marketers at Avery, where, everything on Avery is the AI helping push things along or to brainstorm or to draft, but then the human controlling, editing, pushing. And so really kind of pushing the boundaries for us of like where are the kind of collaboration points that are native in this new world of AI and human kind of collaboration back and forth. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
I
it's it's Avery. It's Avery because we liked what the name Avery means in ancient Nordic is a council of high elves, which we thought was cool. And then traditionally Avery is Avery, but just like the company, Avery starts and ends in AI, so that's why it's spelled that way
the marketing is like the worst part of no, let me say this again.
of everything. Yeah,
Accounting is the worst part of everything.
yep,
Then the marketing, man.
yep. Well,
And
the accountants get ramp. And the engineers get Cursor, but the marketers, oh, here's 100,000 MarTech tools, and it's only gotten more confusing and worse since AI proliferation of all these like little single-use tools. And so, we want to do the same thing for marketers, where you get one clean space to work in, where you can create content, you can work with great folks when you need them, and hopefully have more time in your day to be more creative and strategic and spend less of it on the operational nonsense.
I'm just finding before we jump in the time machine, just a couple more minutes. I'm finding that it's things have shifted so much over the last few years about where to even put your marketing dollars. Like X, I mean Twitter before X, like was an amazing platform, at least for my software consulting business. Like I was getting a lot of engagement there. It's gone. Blue Sky has not been the place, and I've been forced now for a year to go on LinkedIn, which I don't get
Yeah.
it. But now you have to be there, and now it's like three platforms, and I'm not an Insta, Facebook, like I don't do any of that. So I just find it really challenging about where to put your dollars and like how to really. I don't. I mean, all these tools measure engagement, but like, is that valid? You know what I'm saying? Like these things drive me absolutely it used to just be simple, man. Get Google Analytics and look at the website, and you knew what was going
Right.
on.
Well, yeah, and I think marketing has always been like we put the onus on marketers to understand and know every new platform and every new kind of it's why I love marketing is like it's so tied into social movements and things like that as well. Like you can't just put your head in the ground and be a good marketer. It's very tied into what's happening in the world, but that's also a kind of a ding against it is you have to like how are we all supposed to know like okay what platform is going to be the big one in 6 months and what kind of social movement or fad or trend is worth actually investing dollars into and which one is going to be here today and gone tomorrow. And I think AI, the promise of AI is to be able to analyze at mass, you know, and to be able to burn down insights that are actually helpful for individual people. And I think marketing is the perfect use case for that. Is great. Like, let's go run some agentic research reports on this new platform, on our market, on how our customers are acting, and what platforms are working in today, and automatically train our AI to get better at doing those things, so that it doesn't put it all on me to be like, oh, great, what new social platform are people going to be on next week? You know?
I find it super interesting that at the same time Google's investing all this money, they've basically broke the cash machine because right the black hole of cash was the AdSense. I couldn't tell you
Yeah, I mean
last time I saw an
it's
ad on
breaking.
Google.
Yeah, well, it's breaking the. It's not even just their cash machine. It's like the monetization structure of the internet, right? It's worth me putting up content on my site because I can earn eyeballs from AdSense, and so because of that, I put the effort into building great content. And when you take that away, and you know, it's just a Gemini agent like scraping my content and showing it to people at the top of the site, there's no purpose and point for me to go out and create content anymore, you know, unless you're trying to be, you know, an influencer and get paid by brands directly. And so it's an interesting dilemma. Yeah, they've done it, but they've had to do it. Otherwise, somebody else was going to do it for them. So
Oh no, they had to do it, right?
yeah,
Um, at least me, I'm a developer, right? But I'm asking my local agent first, and then I'm asking Gemini, and then for everything else, I use Google Maps. Believe it or not, I couldn't tell you last time I saw an ad on Google. It's just
yeah. I mean,
it's mind blowing to
I'm
me.
that way, but I mean, I replaced like Chrome and everything, even in the toolbar on the bottom of my phone, and I just ChatGPT everything pretty much. So it's like, you know, and you see those kind of trends on just, you know, we put a lot of effort into building tools in the AI to be able on Avery to help people trend in with LLM search as well, which has become such a big topic of, hey, how do I make sure that Gemini and Claude and Grok and ChatGPT are all going to recommend my business over? And there's different ways to build for LLM SEO than there used to be for kind of traditional web SEO. And you know, nowadays you have a trillion searches this year for products will happen on ChatGPT, and 4 trillion product searches on Google. So it's crazy how fast in just a couple of years, ChatGPT is catching up in that regard.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily about what's been cached by Google from a search engine perspective. Now it's about what is their MCP tool gonna
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah,
where what that's
or
even
what
hitting.
surfaces on, you know, top 10 hits, but then like why do things start surfacing on top 10 hits when people stop creating content because AdSense doesn't exist anymore? So it's a very interesting time to be alive for sure.
I hate SE. I did in 2004 when I started my first business. I had to do all the SEO, SEM, and I literally was on a whiteboard at Yahoo because I was like owning every term I wanted because it was just relevance based, right? Like
Hmm.
super simple. But nobody bought anything on Yahoo. Everybody, the money that people were spending came from Google's. Like you had to be on Google, right? And it was just a nightmare. Like I'd have trauma still even thinking about that stuff. Anyway,
Yeah,
bro.
I do have faith that LLM search actually has some really good kind of solid core components of what it celebrates and what it ranks, that are bringing us back to like helpful long form content and things, you know, versus kind of like the hacky like SEO tricks of the mid 2010s, like that honestly like good deep content that's you know human and AI generated in collaboration does really well on LLM search. So you know, I'm hopeful that it actually will be a good thing for kind of the quality of content we all have to
Yeah.
read.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, Google's always been about relevance, right? So relevance was kind of a simple thing. This web page, which we really rank high, has a link to you on it, right? Like,
Yeah, it's got
right?
backlinks and it's got keywords, and with LLM search, it's more about like semantic phrasing, which is a more like accurate way of being relevant on what's actually on that page. And so, yeah, it'll be an interesting couple of years to see how all that works.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. Wow. So I didn't even think about it till I just started talking to you, how insane all that's now gonna have to be. One trick I used to do though is I would tell people, if you can just find yourself on, even on page 50, just get 10 buddies every day to click on the link and kill the browser, and you'd be on page 3 by like 2 weeks, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or
gone.
hire some guy in Indonesia to do that for you all day too. Yeah.
All right, so we are gonna jump into the time machine. We'll get back to this conversation, but I want to get a sense of like sort of your journey to Avery. So, a couple of questions out of the box. One, I've got to date you. What year did you graduate high school, and where were you on the planet?
I graduated high school 2009 in a small farm town in Utah. Before that, I grew up in the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador until I was 13 in the jungle.
Wow. So from, say, birth to 13, you were in Ecuador.
Yeah, Costa Rica and Ecuador. Yeah, in a
Okay.
little 200-person village in the Amazon.
Wow. So um, okay. My wife is Colombian, so I have a like a little, and I live in Miami, so like I'm familiar with all those countries. But your Spanish still, hopefully, you didn't lose any of your Spanish. Your Spanish has got to
Well,
be.
you move to a small farm town in Utah, you lose some of it, but still here, I can still hear fluently. And yeah, I have friends down in Colombia and stuff. When I'm down there for a month, it comes back quick, but you lose a lot of the vocab words moving to the most Mormon town in America in Utah. So
You see, because you look so gringo that
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
nobody would ever expect
Yeah.
that your Spanish would be at that level. You could have so much fun down in South America,
Yeah.
man.
I like pulling the accent out every once in a while and surprising people. But yeah, it was a cool way to grow up. We had a pet sloth, pet toucan, like the whole thing. It was fun.
And I mean, 13, you can still remember some of that. Uh,
Yeah.
do you remember what caused you to move, or your family to move?
Yeah, both my parents are in the medical field and like had a strong drive to work for free for a chunk of their lives. And so um, when my dad was about my age, he was an ER doc and just decided to move down to this little small town in Ecuador in the jungle that didn't have enough doctors in their little local hospital. And my mom was a social worker, and they just had a strong desire to go down and help people. So they worked for free for 8 years down there.
So they were already married when they went down there, and ended up having to
Yeah,
move down there.
they
Oh,
had
wow.
so I was when we moved down there, I was 4, my sister was 3, my brother was 6 months old. So they took 3 little kids under 4 and moved down to
That's
the
a
Amazon
massive
rainforest.
decision. I'd love to talk to them and hear how many family members said that they were absolutely out
All
of
of
their
them.
minds.
All of them. And friends and everything, you know. And growing up it was such a normal part of my life because that's how you grew up. But now that I'm the age right now that my dad was when he decided to like put his whole career on pause. You know, you're kind of like late 30s. It's a big kind of career defining chunk of your life. And just, oh, I'm just going to go down and work for free for the next seven
Have
years.
you had those conversations with them at all? Like, what was going on in your mind? What did you think were?
Yeah, it was something that like growing up they were both passionate about. And when they met, like that was something like, oh, you want to do that too? Like, oh, great. And that was a big kind of part of why they got
That's
together
wild.
was both having a strong desire to kind of get out of the States for a while and spend a significant amount of time like helping people elsewhere. So
And then you could go, I guess technically anywhere back in the States, but you go to Utah. So
yeah.
what was the decision there? Just an opportunity?
My
Family?
my mom was from Utah, so we had family there. My mom grew up Mormon and left the church when she was in her early 20s. And so we actually just moved back to Utah temporarily to kind of get our feet under us and be like, okay, we're back in the States. Now let's figure out where we want to move. And they happened to drive by the lot up in the mountains near the Snow Basin Ski Resort where we ended up building the house. And we're like, oh, this is such a special lot. I guess we'll just stay in Utah.
Were
And
you happy about moving at 13, or did you want to stay? Because
I
you
mean,
got friends
I was
now.
yeah, but I was very excited to come be an American kid. Like you know, I had a great time as a kid in Ecuador, but you know, I had watched the OC. I was like very ready to like come back and have like an American teenage experience, which of course was kind of a shock when you come back and you move to a town that's 99% Mormon and a quiet little farm town in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, because you're dreaming like New York or something, and you're
Yeah, I
gonna,
was dreaming about being a Southern California kid and you
yeah.
know, having a crazy prom, and it was not like that at all in Utah. It was a bit of a different experience, but again, all worked out for a reason. I mean, that really led to my first software building
I know,
experience.
but you're not allowed to tell me
Was
that
that
yet.
feeling
We're
there?
not there.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not there.
All right,
But
all right.
Your English was fine too. Then your parents just spoke to you in English when
Yeah, and we
you
had
had
like a
gone.
little, we had like a one lady that tutored like the eight of us down there that were kind of American kids, and so and each of us were in a different grade, but it was so much like personal attention that you got from somebody who just, thank goodness, like ended up being a great tutor that when we moved back, I actually skipped a grade because it was ahead of the like a American
Not
education system.
shocked. I'm not
Yeah,
shocked at all. What's funny is when my sister was, I'm 17 years older than my sister, and when when she left me, my parents decided to move to Florida. So when she started school in Florida, she was like a grade ahead of everybody. And that's just from New York to Florida,
yeah,
man. Like it was like mind blowing to
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, the Florida education system, one of the worst there is. So,
I know every
yeah.
time the kids screw up, I'm like, there's that Florida education kicking in. But this is awesome because you're basically starting like junior high in in the States. And I always love talking a little bit about high school. So what are you doing? It's a small town. How many kids are in your high school at that point? Like 300?
Yeah, 300, 280, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's good. Even on Long Island, I had a small high school. It's like 300 kids. So you kind of know everybody. You're not friends with everybody, but you know everybody.
Definitely know everyone.
What were you doing in high school? Like, what were the things that you were interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I was entrepreneurial since I was a tiny little kid. So, I mean, even down in Ecuador, I was starting little stands, and I had a store where my cousins would ship things down that we couldn't buy down in Ecuador. And I had a little merchant shop down there. And so I was always kind of obsessed with, and I had like the big old Gateway original laptop with the mouse in the middle of the keyboard down in Ecuador. And it already kind of started just, I was in love with technology and wanted to build. And um, other than that, I played sports and worked like crazy to, we didn't have a lot of money when we came back from Ecuador because my parents hadn't made any money for a decade. And I knew I wanted to get out of Utah to go to school somewhere else. And so I knew that getting a scholarship was the only way to do that. So worked like crazy in school and, played sports. And other than that, just like sat around and thought about what little businesses to start constantly, pretty much.
Where's the business? I'm wondering, is the whole business thing really about like, because I imagine you felt you lived a very poor life, right? You're in a poor area. You have a lot of things you want, you can't have for all good, right? But is part of that wanting a business just to not feel like that anymore?
I definitely think like probably that's a good question. I think probably part of it is like seeing kind of the challenges when my parents came back, like that financial insecurity can cause and the stresses that can cause for people. I definitely think that had a part to do with it, but honestly, no, I think the main reason was like I was just obsessed with like the creation of something new, and I've never been very good at like doing something that other folks are doing. Having like a corporate job that you do the same thing every day and there's 30 other people at the company doing the same thing as you is like since a kid was like a nightmare to me. I think because I just grew up in such a weird way, maybe. And I think also down in Ecuador, like we were very fortunate compared to most of the people that we lived around. And I had a strong desire to start things that like helped people out. I think I found early, I was the oldest of the three kids, and everything was a problem to be solved. How do you throw your little sister a birthday party in the middle of the jungle? And how do you project plan for that and stuff? And I loved the feeling of things coming together and being able to help somebody out by solving a problem. And so I think there was a lot that went into it. It was definitely part of it was kind of the financial part, but a big part of it was just like how cool is it to start something that didn't exist before you thought it up that actually was able to help some folks.
I also imagine you had a lot of freedom when you were living down there. Did that sort of disappear when you came to the States? Because everybody here is so controlling of like where the kids are at any given moment, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think growing up in a small farm town still has like the most of that there probably is in the United States. It wasn't like where are you all day long, and both my parents worked a lot, and so um but at the same time, like it was more of like culturally controlling as was the feeling when I moved back of like, okay, now you're one of the only non-Mormon folks in a very Mormon town. There's a lot of like cultural boundaries and borders that were very different than what I was either growing up with or expecting in my like American
Mm.
reunion tour. And so I don't think I ever felt like controlled on like, oh, where are you at any given time? But I did feel very like suffocated by kind of the like cultural norms and like policies that were very prevalent in that area.
Yeah. Wow. You're just like almost like feeling like you went backwards for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When like you've been dreaming for a couple years of like, oh, this is how it's going to be when I move back to the States. So,
What was your just still in high school? Like, what were the subjects that were most interesting to you?
yeah, always been kind of an obsessive writer, and so anything that had to do with the written word, reading the classics, writing novels, and I published a couple books of poetry in high school, and so anything like humanities based. I loved history and philosophy and things like that. I always enjoyed like math and science, but it was never really like the passion zones. It was always the written word, which I think is one of the reasons I love, not to be kind of like a cheesy connector, but why I like love AI so much is it's such a connector of like deep hard tech with the written word and natural language processing, making how we communicate things more important than ever. Right? I love that kind of crossover that's happened.
So then, when you're about to graduate high school, where's your brain in terms of? I assume you're going to like college was the only option on the table, as it is with a lot of kids. So,
Yeah, it was like the direct. I mean, I think if it was now, like if it was my kid, he was that age now, like it would be option A, but there would be strong option Bs and Cs. I think, you know, 15 years ago, it was still like if you want to get out of your hometown at 18, like you go to college somewhere. And but I had already, and I don't know if this is skipping, but I'd already started a business by then that I'd sold and that had gotten acquired, and so
oh
I
no, no, no,
knew.
stop. We got to talk about that, dude. So, in high school, you started a business that you. All right, let's talk about that because
Cool.
that's a rare situation.
Yeah, yeah. So at 15, I started my first kind of little official business. It's called Neighborhood Knowledge, and it was kind of was having trouble. I felt like connecting to the neighborhoods around. Like we moved from a small town in Ecuador where everybody knew everybody, and then in Utah things were very spread out. You're in a little neighborhood cul-de-sac, and there's other people elsewhere. And I think I was struggling to kind of connect, and so I had the idea for like neighborhood-based like forums and directories on a website. So pretty much like what Nextdoor ended up scaling out to be kind of a monster of a business. And it was so I would knock, first in our neighborhood, I knocked on doors. I had like a form, people would fill the form out. And then I went back and I built a super simple database app that had forums on it that you could log in. It was $5 per family per month. They would log in. They could see the neighborhood directory of like, oh, like if I need the lawn raked, this kid down the street can do it. Or hey, I'm a kid and I'd like to rake lawns. And then like a forum where everybody could talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. And everybody in my neighborhood signed up. And then I started getting business interns at other neighborhoods to go and get other neighborhoods to sign up. And by the time I was 17, we had about 10,000 paying customers in
That's
there.
crazy that people even did that. Because you try to do that today, everybody's going to be like, "I want my privacy," right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I
mind
think it was
blowing.
like, yeah, I mean, Nextdoor has, 200 million daily users now. And so I think it was like, like wanting to kind of use the internet to be a little bit more connected to your neighborhood around you was a natural thing at that time. Um,
What did you
and yeah,
build all
so
that tech in it? Because you're 15 years old. Like you're using PHP. It's
yeah, it
2007,
was
right?
literally
Yeah.
PHP, super simple, like just like database web app, and then uh,
Where were you hosting it? GoDaddy? Like,
hosted on GoDaddy. And
yeah.
then I'm forgetting the super simple language that we used to build the forum. Slipped my mind, but I'll come back to that if it comes up a little later. But yeah, I mean, it was simple, it was janky, but like it worked, and people who signed up, like we had like 100% retention, $5 a month, like nobody even thought about it, but um,
You were taking
you know,
credit card collections at that point too. Like you
yeah.
had all that set up.
Yep.
Ah,
And like
that's
and like
pretty amazing.
recurring subscriptions and stuff, which wasn't a super common thing at the time. Um, and yeah,
How
so I mean
many
that
people were
was
helping you with that? It was you and
yeah, just one other guy who was like another, just like an engineer, who kind of helped me hack it together.
how did that not consume every waking hour, especially as you're growing?
Yeah, I mean, it
So
was
it's
a big
human
part of
based.
like what I wanted to do, but also like you had other things. I was in school, I was an all-American athlete. Like you had to kind of like, or I'll state I'm all-American, but you had to kind of like find a balance. But it was what I love to do. It was like it was I wasn't like going off and hanging out with friends much. Like I was building stuff. And uh, so yeah, at 17, we got an offer to buy it from like the local, like the area's like newspaper media kind of conglomerate. And for a while, they hosted it on their site and kept running it like on their site. And so it wasn't a huge exit by any stretch of the imagination, but it paid for college, and was like kind of like signed sealed, like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. There were some good and bad parts about like the first run being like a successful little exit in 2 years. You're like, oh, this is how it's always
Yeah,
going to be. You build it,
yeah,
you sell
yeah.
it, you move on. This is what I want to do. But it was obviously honestly, yeah, it was a great
Your
experience.
parents must have
So.
been like proud and
Here at Ardan Labs, we believe in empowering companies to reach their full potential through innovative technology solutions. Trusted by small startups and Fortune 500 companies alike, we specialize in high performance software consulting, training, staffing, development, and now AI. With over 14 years of experience, Ardan Labs has trained over 30,000 engineers and served over 1,000 companies worldwide. Whether you're mastering Go, Rust, Kubernetes, Terraform, or blockchain, we're your strategic partner for performance-grade solutions. Let's elevate your tech journey together. Reach out to Ardan Labs today.
I would have been like proud and surprised, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think
Especially for
both.
your age.
But both my parents, my mom especially, is super entrepreneurial. She's a founder of a business now that has 250 employees. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was an entrepreneur growing up and kind of was my role model. And why I think from an early age I was like, okay, there's a path to doing your own thing in life. And you know, he never missed a football game of mine or any of my siblings. They were always there. You know, my dad was a doctor, which is, you know, he worked his ass off. But it was a different way of being able to be present. And I was like, okay, this is an entrepreneur's ability to control their time. This is somebody who, you know, works for other people and has to be at the hospital all the time. I think I know which route I want to do. But then since then, my dad's become an entrepreneur and now owns his and just actually sold his practice. So everybody in the family now all entrepreneurial.
So, what did you decide about school? At least from the time you graduate and you start, you're going to take a literary track. You're going to take an engineering track. Like, where's your head?
Yeah, no, I still had I wanted, I mean, I grew up idolizing my parents of just like look at all the cool things they were able to do and help people with down in Ecuador. So I actually wanted to like do a business track and pre-med. And I wanted to
You were going to
um
do pre med even after that whole speech you gave me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wanted to run businesses, but I still had a strong desire to be able to like go back to Ecuador and help people. And just because that was like so much of a part of how I grew up. But yeah, it took me 2 months at USC on the getting graded on a bell curve coming from a small farm high school against the geniuses there in pre-med to decide that like I was going to stick to business and philosophy. So
No, my son-in-law just finished his fourth year or something, and your head is in a book at all times. The only time I could ever get that kid in the last 4 years to take his head out of the book was when I said we're going to go to Vegas, and he said, "Oh, I'm going." I'm like, "Dude, I can't get you to do anything." He goes, "Yeah, but this is Vegas."
yeah, we're going to the Sphere. Also, obviously like I'd started the business. I had a strong desire to earn money from an early age, and the idea of starting to get paid at 33 just didn't connect with me. And so of course, like obviously a massive you know, I'm super impressed by people who are able to do that. But for me, it was like I wanted to start another business while I was in college. So the idea of like doing pre-med dropped off pretty fast.
Yeah. So you're going to do the business track. What else did you
Yeah,
say? The business.
I majored in philosophy. Um, Philosophy, law, and value theory was the major. I've always loved like reading classic philosophy, and was obsessed as a kid with like mythology and everything like that. And
So that's fair, but what did you think that was practically? I like my philosophy class. I did.
mhm.
But like from a practicality standpoint, knowing
Yeah, I mean, you're
already.
arguing, reading, and writing, and those three things never go away. I mean, looking back, the ability to read something super dense and complex, and to be able to break that down and argue against it and write logically about it has been the most important thing in my career personally.
But
You
you
know,
don't need to
take
do that anymore, Zach. Now we run it through the LLM, man.
Yeah, but how is that? How does that LLM do it? Is the most interesting thing. Core system prompts and the logic that goes into LLMs. It's philosophy at the end of the day. It's arguing super fine points and being able to make things really clear. And so I did that, and then yeah, I did entrepreneurship, which was a lot of fun as well.
So
So
did you, in those, let's say 4 years you were at USC, did you start any businesses?
I kind of like messed around with a few, but they were always like the kind of cheesy things everybody in college thinks about starting of like, how can I build an app that tells people how busy the bars are, or whatever the kind of like social app that everybody like. It's like that same thing that every kid in college does. Mostly I worked on building out a great network of folks. Uh, Remember that kind of for the first time in my whole life, it was like the first time I was ever in a social
Mm.
atmosphere that I felt like I finally had belonged in, and so it was a lot of Greek
Did
life,
you let
and
loose a little bit? You had to let loose a little bit, dude. You
I
had
let
to
loose a
party.
lot. I let loose a lot of
Okay,
it.
good, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was like, oh, this is what I had always imagined, like growing up in America to be like,
Because you wanted to
and
be in California. I mean, I'm not
yeah,
shocked you went to USC, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
you
Yeah,
wanted
I turned
California.
down some offers to go to schools that I think technically are considered better schools, even though I wouldn't have traded USC for anything. Because the first time I went to visit USC, it was like 74 degrees. People were throwing the football out on the quad, and it's like, oh, this is like the experience
But
that
you
I
had
kind of
some
imagined in
decent
my head.
grades to get into USC. You couldn't be a clown. You weren't,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
I got it, and I got a scholarship at USC too, which was nice. And so, I ended up doing well in high school on the grades and on the testing and everything like that. And so, I actually got into some like I said, like some better schools technically than USC, but it was like USC was the fit.
No,
So,
um, I managed 7 kids. So number 6 is starting college this year. And she had to choose between RIT and St. Mary's, which is basically Notre Dame. And like everything on paper said go to RIT, but her heart said go to Notre Dame for the I think for the same reasons, right? The vibe, the culture, you were just going to be happier there. Maybe you got a bit of a stronger education, but you'll catch up with that, right?
yeah, and also like what is a strong education? Like it's because the classes like grade at one school like a little bit harder or less hard than the other. I mean, I think it's a lot about. I mean, USC by far the most valuable part of it was the network that you come out of it with, and the kind of like the fact that almost everybody there was super driven to graduate and do interesting entrepreneurial creative things. You have the USC Film School there, you have Marshall, and so I don't know if there's a place on the planet that you graduate with a better group of people than at USC. So
But now that you're going to get your undergraduate degree 4 years later, right? So 2013. Um, what's next? I'm guessing you're jumping at the bit to get to work. You're not looking at more education at this point.
yeah, no, I definitely wasn't looking at more education, but I also, we were in LA. I had kind of fall in love with the film industry and kind of like that as a creative output. And so after college, I went and worked at William Morris, which was like the big talent agency, um, and did that for a solid 6 months before I decided that that was not for me. Of wearing a suit to work every day and getting treated like trash by as an assistant in the mailroom. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the job that you took for those 6 months?
Well, yeah, I mean, in a talent agency, there's only one path that you start in the mailroom, then you're an assistant to an agent, then you're a junior agent, and then you're an agent. And, I had a lot of respect for like how hard those folks worked. And I learned a ton just in that short amount of time of like, formalized hard work. But it was kind of the same thing with medicine that you start to see like the 35, 36-year olds who are still like junior agents making 52,000 a year, and it's like, oh, like that could be me down the line, like 15 years from
You
now.
got to pay your dues, Zach. Come on now. There's
Yeah,
no like
yeah.
easy
There's
way
different
to
ways
it.
to pay the dues, and I think getting like trapped in one of those flows uh, didn't work for me, and so left to start the next business.
So 6 months and you're like this is a jail sentence at this point, and this isn't going to get me where I want it to go anyway. So what's this idea that you have?
Yeah, a lot of my friends at the time were artists, were painters, and I'd started, it kind of started to drive me nuts that so many really talented artists were struggling to pay their rents, while every single person that I knew at the time had the same like five IKEA prints on their wall. You know, like the early young professionals, you're coming out of college. It was like everybody had movie posters on their walls or IKEA prints on their walls, and then this incredible
You're saying
painter who
wait,
lived down the street.
IKEA prints. I don't know what
Yeah,
that is.
you know, like IKEA, the like IKEA sells like there was like the print of the gray Amsterdam with the red bike. There was like the print of New York. There was like five
So just
posters
classic.
that they sold at IKEA that like
Okay.
80% of your friends would have on their walls.
Why?
And because it was like you're a young professional, you're kind of putting decorating your first apartment. Like I don't know, but it drove me nuts. And it drove me
Oh,
nuts that like right down the street there was some incredible painter who isn't in galleries yet and is like struggling to sell their work and to pay their rent. And so
that's interesting. Before you finish this, when I got divorced and I had to put my apartment together, I wanted some art on the wall, right? Now, I just found some piecemeal art here and there, but it's super fascinating what you're saying, right? Because you get a place, you want it to look good, you don't know anything about art, you're walking around IKEA, that looks kind of cool. That can fill up that space, right? But you're absolutely right. If especially at the age that I was at the time, if I could have gotten better quality for a reasonable price, why wouldn't I want that more? Like that never
yeah,
even stuck
exactly.
in my
And
head.
real like local like original art.
Oh
And I
my
think
god, dude.
everybody wants that, but not a lot of
Okay.
people. I mean, but it also was a very weird thing to be buying art, like to try and sell art online was a kind of a it was pretty early on like, you
Yeah,
know,
but why does this
direct to
pop into
consumer
your
boom. And
head? You're not an
it was,
artist.
yeah,
Why
no,
does
it was
this
just,
pop into
I had
your
good
head?
friends. I had good friends that were artists. And again, like it was kind of
Oh,
a theme at the time of like wanting to use technology to like connect people locally other ways, right? Like that's what neighborhood knowledge had done. And so it was a big part of like my thinking of, man, like it would be one thing if I could just find cool art, but to know that like this artist lives in my neighborhood and that like I'm buying art that's local to
like an
where I live.
online gallery where somebody could walk down the street and pick up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we called it Art Lifted, and it had, you know, you had local art for local, you know, from local artists, and then purchases on the platform helped fund art education in local like nonprofits of wherever you lived in different major cities. In LA at the time, the public school system had completely cut art education from the curriculum, which without art in schools, high school graduation rates dropped by like 30% significantly
Well,
because you just have kids who all they do is math, science, and history at school, and there's none of that creative outlet. So if you drop music and art classes, it's a big detriment. And so the goal was fund art education in elementary schools by having local people buy local art. And
okay, you still have to make a profit, and everything
mhm.
still has to be affordable. So are you taking like a percentage fee, a flat
Yeah,
fee?
it was like a take rate, and the take rate was way too small. The business was convoluted and trying to do a lot, but you know we were able to raise venture for it, at
Okay.
22, and which was
That's a
you know
whole nother thing, right? So you decided to raise
yeah, yeah,
money for
which
it.
exactly. And then you know I'm 23. I'm yeah, spend the venture in all the worst ways possible, make every mistake you can as a 23-year-old founder. You know, had too nice of an office, hired all my friends. You know, I just and then you know some of like the basics of you know of running a business at 23, you're just such a novice on, and so we had fun and ran that business for a while, but ended up failing, and we you know we ran out of money and just couldn't do it anymore, and that was a really dark chapter for me personally was, first time I started a business, oh, started it, did well, sold it. That's who I am. That's how this is going to be. And then when you have one that fails, and like that time of life was pretty, you tie so much of your identity into like what you're doing coming out of college. It was like, oh, all my friends know me as like, oh, he's starting the business. And, we raised a family and friends around from like friends, parents, and things like that. And so when it failed, I really struggled with like the kind of the separation between like the business has failed from like I'm a failure as a person.
No, I had my first business failed too. Started in 2004. Learned a lot, right? Even watched it just bleed to death, which is the hardest thing, instead of just cutting a head off. And had an uncle that I eventually paid back some money to that also did. That was the part that killed me the most. It wasn't the business failing and even me being like, dude, hundreds of thousands of dollars underwater, right? I'm going to do what I have to recover. It was the friends and family who lost money. That's what just destroyed me.
I was just kind of really wrapped up in like, okay, the business failed, I'm a failure, and it took a while to like build better mental health practices to be able to like crawl out of that and go move on to do what was next. And
So
that's why
so
like
how long did that business, you started that business like 2013, 14?
yeah,
And
2014.
when and how long did it take for you to realize that this was like, even if you bled it dry, like was it 2
Yeah,
years, 3 years?
year and a half, not
Oh,
year and a
2 years.
half,
Okay.
like
That's not
2 years. And
bad. I mean,
yeah, it was like, yeah, there were a lot of good times in there, but it was like it never made any money pretty much, and
and then you had to go back. Like I had to go work for somebody for 2 years before I tried it again, because you
yeah,
got to recover at some level. So what
yeah,
did you
exactly.
do?
Yeah, I went and joined a marketing agency as like as the marketing director there. Kind of some of the first, running that art business, I had marketing on my plate. It was kind of the first time of like, when a business isn't doing well, you learn a lot because you're knocking your head against the wall 1,000 different ways trying to figure out what works. And, like I said, like like selling art through Facebook ads was not a typical thing at the time. And so trying to learn how to technically run a media plan and trying to get people on the site to buy it was a big learning experience. And I think I learned some things through failing at it so miserably for a year and a half that afterwards I went and joined an agency as their director of marketing. And yeah, you kind of recover a bit. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I was like, I got to get out of here and go do something new and started the next one.
I
So
mean, you can look back. You got to get through those dark times, right? Even when you want to do the harm to yourself, like you said, right? Because when you're in the middle of that, you just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and you just want it to end. Like I've been there too. Um,
yeah,
and
and it
now you
took
can
it,
look.
ta- it takes like real conscious work. You can't just like, oh, things will get better one of these days. It's like the same thing of like if you're not in shape, you can't just think about getting into shape and every once in a while and then do it. It's the same thing with your brain. And I think I was like, I got really into like, deep into Stoic philosophy and meditation and like therapy and just like, all the things that you can do to train your brain to function in better ways, just like you can your
And you
body.
need people around you too that are positive and holding you up. What saved me a
Absolutely.
couple of times was the kids. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to do this, and like the number of lives that's going to affect. Like, am I going to be that selfish? That's what always pulled me back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Am I going to
100%.
be? But you also have to have a level of maturity too, which I was much older than you when I was going through some of that. Where
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
23,
24.
it's
You're
hard.
not. You're not. You're not like there weren't any kids being like, "Oh, what about the kids?" You're like, oh, this is it.
No,
And but so yeah, and was able to like to kind of work through that. Join the marketing agency, and then
yeah, I love
uh
like 6 months later, you're like, no, I now I remember
yeah.
why I did the other thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that the worst, I mean, just in my opinion, for me, that the worst days running your own business are better than the best days. Under somebody's like in a poorly run organization pushing somebody else's vision forward.
So now it's
So,
like what, 2016, and
mhm.
you're gonna try again.
Yeah, and I kind of went like a more traditional. I started a marketing agency myself, and kind of like took what I'd learned and then
How do you start a marketing agency? Because look, for people that are looking to start their business, right? My first business was a product. We raised family and friends. We never did another round, thank God, right? My second business has been about consulting and training, but I needed that first client to get it going.
Mhm.
After that, you work your ass off to get another client, right? So you're going to start a marketing agency, great, but do you have a client to sort of establish that on, or I want to start a marketing agency and now let me go find somebody?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's normally the easiest part is, hustling for that first client
That's the
is,
easy
you
part.
can that's the easy part. You
Getting
package up,
somebody to pay you
you
a
you you
buck.
you put up a website, yeah, because it's the hard part to then like build scalable processes so that you're not working with one or two. There's a freelance business and there's an agency where you need 50, 60 clients. And I think going out and like bugging everybody on LinkedIn and working your network hard and like getting somebody to pay you $2,000 to $3,000 a month to do something that you package up was kind of the easy part. I think the hard part was that like how are we going to scale this thing so it's a sustainable business. And
So that was easy for you because from the from USC days, and you developed a really strong network of
yeah,
people
definitely that was a part of
that
it.
you
But then
leaned
also
hard on
like
it.
I think at this point it wasn't my first go around. I had no hesitation about picking up the phone and calling people and asking for things. And I mean, there was no more like shyness of a cold email outreach or anything like that at this point. Especially kind of with all that I'd been through, I was just
Yeah,
like,
you were
I'm
good
going
with
to go out
rejection at that
and
point.
get people. Yeah, I'm going to go get people to
Yeah,
sign up for this thing. And if they say no, it's not about me. It's just like not the right thing in their business at the time, which takes some people some time to figure out. And so
yeah.
and I had also, at the agency that I'd worked at, like I helped build their like sales and like lead gen system and everything. And so I was pretty well acquainted with like getting people on, signing them as clients and everything. And
All right, so
so
you
I
had
did that.
experience with that sales
Yeah, yeah.
sort of cycle.
Yeah, so I did that for a little bit. I'd found a niche that worked really well for us, which was Amazon top sellers, people selling millions of products on Amazon. Oftentimes the brand only exists on Amazon. And those people, if Amazon messes with their listing, launches an Amazon basic product in a version of theirs, their whole business goes up in smoke in a day. So we had built a program to, okay, great. Let's use the momentum you have on Amazon to build a brand off of Amazon and to build a real like sustainable, things you own, your email list, your direct to consumer subscriptions,
Yeah, your
things like
properties.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And nobody else had really pitched any of these people that before, and they all had a lot of flexible money, and we're all terrified of that same thing, and so able to scale. We scaled up to 50, 60 clients in a couple months, and had a decent business there.
How did you
And then
identify that problem? Just
it was like
on
one person
a
we'd happened to
conversation.
meet. Like, yeah, well, I was on Amazon buying bed sheets, and like the number one product that had 400,000 reviews that sells millions a month. Like I was like, I wonder how they're doing off of Amazon, and they didn't exist. No socials, no website, no anything. So I just reached out to them. Um, and then a couple years later, that same group of people, the people who were running that bed sheets like conglomerate selling millions of products, and decided to start a business together, which was the next venture, which was called Cloud 10, and it was like a high end direct to consumer, like home goods business. That was a great business for a long time. Kind of competed with like Brooklinen and Parachute Home, if you know those businesses. This was in the age of like Casper was coming up and Tuft and Needle. It was like a kind of an exciting time to be in like direct to consumer home stuff. And we ran Cloud 10 together for a couple years and then sold it to a private equity firm. Had a good exit on that one. And then I was sitting
But that
around.
was a completely different business. Now you're selling like products to consumer, like beauty products.
Yeah, but I'd been doing marketing at this point for so long that like direct to consumer was easy.
So
It
you
was.
join these guys as the one that's going to manage the marketing and the.
Well, yeah, we started a new business, the three of us together. So they still had their Amazon business, but we launched a new brand, built a set aside business, used all that they knew about procurement and product development, and then I ran everything else. I ran the business and and the marketing and the brand and everything like that.
Now I do a
Um,
search for Cloud 10. I see a lot going on with this sort of branding now.
yeah, 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 and also like Cloud 10's been kind of destroyed by the private equity firm that bought it. And like, what was like a really clean, beautiful brand now looks like a private equity firm owns it.
But you only did
Um,
2 years again.
mhm.
You're a 2 year guy, so you do 2 years, but you had an exit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
amazing.
And I had, that whole time I had marketing on my plate. And, so surface level Cloud 10 was successful, but subsurface level, all these things in marketing that we expect people to be able to handle and do were just like crushing my soul. A revolving door of like freelancers you find on Upwork that come in and help, and then they're not the right fit. And we had a freelancer disappear 2 days before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and didn't like get our ads done, and so lost $250,000 over a weekend. And like you're kind of constantly doing a new demo of a new tool, that trying to figure out what's next. And it just felt like I had no time to like, oh, what's a interesting new campaign we could run, or how can we improve. It was just like keeping your head above water constantly on the marketing side. After we sold Cloud 10, that was the biggest thing that I felt as a pain case. And so we started a business called Select Few, which solved for a bunch of those things and was the early version of what then became Avery. And that
And
was
what year was
five,
that?
6 years ago.
Oh, 5, 6 years
2000,
ago.
yeah, 2019. It
What was the company again before Avery?
was called Select Few. And the idea was just, we're going to use machine learning to match brands to vetted US based marketing expert talent.
Okay, but
Um,
machine learning is still like in its, from a consumer perspective, infancy,
Yeah,
infancy, right?
yeah, definitely. And it was like, how algorithmically can we do this in a way that takes into account like not just, oh, you need Facebook ads, this guy does Facebook ads, but like what are your communication types, where your personalities line up? Are they in a locality in a time zone that you like? How does feedback from past customers like lead into why we recommend this person? So it was all about matching companies up with the right specialists to work with, which I felt was the big pain point. We ran Select Few. We bootstrapped it and did 4 million in year one. It grew fast. It was a big pain point with a lot of different businesses, from like the Nike team to SMBs. Was this like massive amount of time people spend sourcing and searching for and interviewing like the right fit to come in and help with something that they may only need like 6 hours of work for, like this really specialized act. And but it may be somebody to join their team, and picking the wrong strategist or fractional CMO or something can burn your entire runway before you figure out that it wasn't the right
Is this
fit.
like you became an AI recruiter for a very specialized job description that
Yeah,
was
which
imp-
it's like a specialized job description which has, I always liked it because it's got 150, you say marketing, there's 150x specialties in marketing, right? There's so many different specializations, and tons of businesses like already at that time, this is even before really the AI wave, marketing teams are getting smaller and smaller. We're kind of starting to hit COVID. You have these like marketing departments that used to have 100 people in them, now having 40 people in them, but the amount of work wasn't really going away. And so the dependency on agencies and contract specialists was increasing at the time, as
all
like
right. But
departmental teams were getting
talk
smaller.
talk to me about this, because
Hmm.
I'm going to go back to your network. It is not easy to get a meeting with Nike to do anything, right? These are big companies. You really have to know somebody, or you're the only one that can deliver whatever it is they need, right? And
Yeah.
there's just no other place to go. So just be honest with me, Zach. Is your network able to get this company to like 4 million in 1 year? Because that's super impressive. Or is it that you just had something that was so specialized that nobody else did, that
Yeah. Well, I
anybody who
think
heard about it wanted it?
yeah, it was a mix. It definitely wasn't the network at this point. I mean, we're years out of college. I mean, you have a good network of folks, but it was a unique offer. It was like very low risk and didn't cost anything to get started and to try it. People really enjoyed it once they did. And a- we didn't have to sell like top down at big companies. Like we didn't need to like go through a lot of the like belabored procurement processes, and compliance regulations and things like that it gets to like pitch the Nike CMO. It was like, oh, the events director feels like they don't have the right support team under them and have trouble getting the right support from the internal Beaverton marketing team. So so they can use the product themselves, and then if they enjoy it, it spreads to other people within the org,
Right,
right?
right.
And now even years later at Avery, that's a big way that we get to work with some fun large companies, is like we don't need the CTO to implement this across, or the CMO to implement this across the board. We need a mid-level marketer who's overburdened to come and sign up for Avery and try it out and enjoy it, and then to start to build within.
That has a budget and some purchasing power to
Yeah,
go in,
mid-level
and
marketers. Yeah,
because you don't need an
mid-level
MSA.
managers.
You don't need an
Right.
MSA for this.
Yeah, just
And
like somebody like to sign up on and hire a freelancer on Upwork, or match with somebody on Marketer Hire, or to get on and start to train a custom GPT on ChatGPT. Like, all these things are things that, instead of trying to sell system down, like a lot of like tech engineering tech, you have to. With marketers, you need like one mid-level marketer to come and try it and love it, and then it kind of spreads within the organization naturally.
That's really interesting. One of the lessons I learned on the first business is understand the complexity of the logistics. Because I was trying to do some real estate, I was getting listings. Like now, I needed a not an agent, but I forgot what you call the guy that owns everything. But in every state, I needed a person, right? Like the logistics were out of control. Like just with that
Yeah,
level of
and that's how the
complexity.
art business was for me. It was like, okay, now we're sourcing local artists in a certain place and getting them onboarded and selling the product and giving money back, and like it was just like, why did I choose to do this? This is like the logistics are crazy. And I think at Select Few it was a pretty clean process. Teams signed up, they put in what we called an introduction request, and the machine matched, the tech matched them up with great folks, and we learned from good feedback and bad feedback, put in the platform. And so Select Few was a lot of fun, but also even that had a lot of human management components in it. So after we scaled a bit, was not looking like it was a large business. We wanted to build a large business, and at the time started getting people, customers saying we're not hiring copywriters as much because we're trying out this new ChatGPT thing, and designers being like, hey, we don't need these designers anymore because we're starting to use some new AI tools and things like that. And
But what year is
so
that? Now we're talking
this is like
22.
3 years ago. Yeah,
Okay, 23.
yeah, 22.
Okay.
And so we actually built the first version of Avery as a feature within Select Few. Like it would be nice to have an AI strategist and content builder. And over the wave of 22 into 23, became very clear that that was the company, not the feature. And so we shut Select Few down, raised venture for Avery. A lot of the same team members came over and started Avery with me. And uh, start of 24, we built in stealth throughout most of 2024, and then launched last October, about a year ago.
So I got a bunch of questions now. First is, do you remember the first moment you interacted with one of these large language models, like say in 21, 22, especially you, with your background and the magic that these things are, right? For what, like, do you remember that moment when you first saw this? Your
Oh yeah,
brain must have exploded.
yeah, and absolutely, it really did, and it felt like what I imagine when the entrepreneurs who were there, like the first time you sent and got an email, or the first time that like you built a simple database web app and put it up, and pets.com became $1 billion business because it was the early .com boom. The like these you're always kind of jealous, I think, as an entrepreneur who kind of missed like the .com boom and even the mobile boom. And like, I was building later than that. And then that first time that you like engage with a large language model, you're like, oh, this is my wave. Like I get to build in this era. And I think that this era will be more impactful than either of those before, right?
However, you were trying to, I started building websites on that HTML 1.0 before CSS and real JavaScript. And I remember how much we struggled to do the things that we don't even think about today, right? To a point where even some projects just had to be stopped because it wasn't ready yet.
Yeah,
And
but that
22, it
commoditization
wasn't
also makes
ready
it
yet.
much more. Yeah, that commoditization also makes things much more competitive, right? When anybody can build an e-commerce website, e-commerce gets a lot more competitive, and so you're also kind of jealous of the people who were able to make it work back then because there were a lot less people doing it. Versus nowadays, you're competing to build most things against every genius
I'm,
in India and China and everything else.
today with the models that they can reason and tool calling, it's like you think back 2 years ago and you're like, damn, I wish I had that, right? Because all the hoops that you now have to rip out to leverage that so you can move faster. But what's also
Yeah, and that's
fascinating,
that's a challenge
yeah,
in
go
and of
ahead.
itself too. Just on that is like how fast the infrastructure improvements are coming. That you can spend 3 months building something internally, and then like 2 weeks after you get it done, oh, like a team raised 30 million to do this all the time, and you could have just plugged it in and had it done in a day. It's like to stay up to date on how fast like the actual like infrastructure apps are coming out is crazy too.
Kills me is you spend 2 months using a model, you get the prompts perfect, and then the next model comes out, and you're like, I want to use the latest model, but I just got this thing working perfectly. But I want to use the latest,
Yeah.
and you just can't, right? Like you just
Yeah, I
have to
mean, for
freeze
for
that.
our ad builder, we worked for like 4 months on our ad builder and had it pretty good. We liked it a lot. We were ready to launch it, and we were going to launch it the day after the surprise drop of 4.0 image like OpenAI dropped 4.0 image generation, and immediately we were like, we can't launch this. This is not anywhere near the tier of like what 4.0 is doing right now, and so we had to pause, rebuild, and so it's the exciting thing about it, but it's definitely a challenge to be able to like every 3 months what you started working on may be irrelevant by the time it comes out with just how fast things are changing. And OpenAI just raised $40 billion. So if you're like trying to do something against them, good luck at keeping up in pace, you
And
know?
Nvidia is about to invest all their right infrastructure support. But the I think today, if you're building anything that's AI based, you have to build it with the ability to take advantage of what's coming in a few months and take advantage of the improvement almost for free, right? So, as an example, as an AI coding agent, right? As the models get better reasoning and your tool set gets better, dropping in the new model, you might have to test it for a few weeks, but you should see an improvement because you're
Yeah.
leveraging, right? And you kind of have to, you can't build it where it's so fragile on top of one model,
No, it
which is
has to be
what,
multi-model, and it
yeah,
has to
but
be able to, it has to be able to improve as these billions of dollars are spent improving these foundation models. Like the application layer should be something where you're focused on user trust and ease of use for them. I think right now a major challenge, especially on the marketing side of AI, is we're telling people, okay, hey, look, go and to build and just to generate an ad with AI. It's like do a background on Midjourney, take it out, go do the text on 4.0, take it out and add your product with Nano Banana, and then take it out and put it in Photoshop. It's like we're expecting people to use 17 different things when application layers should tie everything together.
so I imagine, Zach, that the application development side is that, but that's not where the challenge is today, especially 2 years ago. But I imagine maybe it's even more challenging. Cost, dude, right? I imagine that you're running your own models, maybe. You're running them in cloud infrastructure, probably. You know how long it takes to get a GPU today in GCP? It could take you all day just to get one if you can get your hands on it, right? And so, what I'm super interested in you talking a little bit about is how you're, we don't have to get into details, but how are you pricing your products and services to make sure that uh, the infrastructure costs, which are very, very high, right? You're not losing money there because this is what I'm seeing with a lot of AI companies.
Yeah, the interesting thing about building AI application layers that have cost involved is most revenue systems are pretty simple, and I think that's why the margins line up in weird ways. Is you have, okay, how are we going to charge these people? It's either usage based pricing, like okay, we charge them by credits or tokens, and we have to get kind of ticky tacky on that side, or we have to find like a monthly subscription rate that's high enough to be able to validate the amounts of use you want power users to be able to run. And that's really it, or like those two are the two that you see. And I think users are getting tired of like feeling like you're constantly running out of credits. Or the thing that really kills me is, you get into a platform and like 2 days in, you're like out of credits. And it's like, I haven't even really gotten into the flow of the product and like see if I really like it yet. Or, you're going to charge $200 a month for a product and you need to go, I mean, at that price on a per user basis, you have to also go and scale to like, 1 million users to actually be a relevant business. So at Avery, kind of our whole pricing model is it works differently. Remember that a big part of our business is when the AI connects you to a human expert to work with. Uh, we have a 22% take rate when you get connected that comes out of the expert side because they had the AI match them up to a job without having to do any sales or manage their funnels at all. And so uh, because of that, we have a much higher per user revenue than a company that is just billing you for tokens. And so because of that, we have a lot more leeway with what we can take off the user's plate as far as AI infrastructure costs. So I can have a higher cost and not ticky tack you for tokens. Because if you work with one or two experts without any additional cost to you, like everybody's making money. And so our revenue model and that, and then like if the product, like sometimes people ask Avery, hey, like what CRM should we use, or what's a good website personalization tool? And if it isn't something that Avery does, it'll recommend them a recommended partner that then we earn affiliate revenue from. And so we have like a mixed revenue model that means that we don't have to worry so much about, man, we're going to charge $30 a month for this person, so we need to keep their AI costs under $1 per month. We have a little bit more flexibility on that side.
Yeah, I think what I've learned this year is that companies that are, say, we'll call them pure AI companies, the ones that are providing models, doing agents. So you can think of Cursor to infrastructure companies, whatever they are. If they're charging flat fees, they're all going to lose their shirts. They're just losing their shirts,
Yeah,
and I
and I
think you're
mean, you
going to
saw
see
with
all that
Cursor that
flat
even
fee
like,
stuff go.
yeah, I mean, even I mean, a Cursor, like a beloved company, ticked so many people off by trying to switch overages on. Right? They had flat base pricing. They switched overages on and ticked, a million users off. And you never see Cursor ticking people off. They're such like a golden child that we have in AI, and because they were getting killed by power users on their larger like pro tiers, and so I mean there's ways, there's ways that we all have to figure out around this to be able to manage costs. For us, the big part is like not relying purely on, we charge you for AI, we have to keep our AI costs low, and finding other ways in like your marketing system to be able to earn revenue in a way that is clear and fair to users, but also allows us to allow you to do more with AI on the platform without being like, oh, I ran out of tokens for the third time this week.
So I use a product from SourceGraph called AMP for my coding agent. These guys are badass, and they're a pay-as-you-go. Like you could add as little as $5 when you need it. And I've been studying my usage with them because I've always been the just give me a flat rate so I know what my budget is kind of guy. But for some reason in this space, I'm not. I'm afraid that if you do that, and now this company, let's say a Cursor goes away, which they won't, right? But imagine they now go away because you've lost your tool, right? People deserve to get paid. But I've been monitoring my usage, and I think at the end of the year, I'm going to end up paying maybe $300 in sort of usage, which as a developer, I I think it's reasonable for what I'm getting out of the tool, right? Like I do. Like not everybody can afford the $300. I get it, but for me, it's
Yeah, but I mean,
valuable.
as a business expense, that's a drop in the bucket. It's nothing, and you think about, the cost of, oh, another engineer that you would have to add if you're not using a great coding agent, or not pushing out features, 2 months, 3 months faster. And so, I mean, that's a pretty crazy cost on, $300 for the entire year for usage is pretty dang low. But
But
again,
I
to do
know
that
that,
and to build a decent business, they're going to have to go out and sign a million users, which is just
but I
presents its
know
own
they're
problems.
not losing money on me, which is like
Hmm.
my bigger point, right? Like I'm comfortable to know that they're going to be there tomorrow because they didn't take a loss on that. They didn't take a big win on it, but they didn't take a loss on it.
Hmm.
And so, and I run models in Kubernetes. Even the simplest systems can start costing you $2,000-3,000 a day.
Hmm.
In the cloud. You just start doing the math, right? You almost need a half a million a year just for one cluster running 3 or 4 models, and I guess that's why you raise money. But
It's
I
why you
mean,
raise money, and it's why hopefully you try to build like revenue systems that don't completely depend on, like, to me, just pure usage based pricing, or subscription that allow you to find other ways to be able to offset those costs.
but are you using? Because when I say $2,000-3,000 a day, I'm talking about me running open source models. I'm not talking
Hmm.
about hitting Anthropic APIs or open APIs, which there are apps that can do that. But once you have privacy and security concerns, which I imagine you have, right?
Hmm.
Right? It's almost now like you have to run your own models in your own
Yeah, well,
compute.
you run a mixture. I mean, we function on a mixture of experts like how Cursor works, where Cursor mostly functions on its own models, but then it's still using Anthropic and OpenAI constantly, right? And so I think I wouldn't want to be building an app that had to rely solely on open source models and our, and our own, versus like being able to keep up with the speed of innovation at the large models, and then yeah, you have to do the right things on the security side, but at the same time, like, well, I think we'll always use those, those large models from Anthropic and OpenAI.
That's fair. But then how do I feel? So how do you convince me that I can trust Anthropic and OpenAI with the data that you're sending them? My
Yeah, I mean, I
marketing
think
data,
like
my
at the end of the
private data.
yeah, well, I think there's two things in that. One is, honestly, it's not my job to convince you of that. It's OpenAI's and Anthropic's, and I think there's entire departments of people who are doing a pretty good job of those things with how many issues there could be in the space. If you don't want to use Anthropic and OpenAI, then you're going to have trouble, I think, keeping up with how modern business operations will work. And again, if you don't want to use Cursor, then it's like,
See,
what can I
I'm
do
gonna
for you?
disagree with you, Zach. I'm gonna disagree with you. I've been spending the last 2 years with a client of mine called Prediction Guard, and we are
Mm,
basically allowing you to run any open source model in your own compute and infrastructure. So you don't even have to worry about whether OpenAI and Anthropic are, and you can get the same performance, right, with all the extra security. Now, I don't know what the cost is between paying OpenAI and making those API calls as opposed to paying
yeah,
Amazon.
and if the performance really
It
is
is.
the same, yeah.
It. You throw enough GPU at a model, dude, it gets like you can get there, right?
Hmm.
But it would be an interesting study to see what ends up. Is it the same at the end of the day? Throw privacy out the door. I'm going to use the chat OpenAI model, and I'm going to use the an open source equivalent. They're both the same accuracy, right? They both work. We even get them down to the same speed. Like I end up now, I'm wondering what's cheaper at the end of the day.
Yeah, what's cheaper? And then I think in the same way that it's like you're talking about it as a negative of like privacy concerns around Anthropic and OpenAI, you have to also account for like the positives of how powerful those brands are, and that there is a lot of built-in trust from some consumers in OpenAI and Anthropic as well. And so I think it's the same way of like there's also like a validation of somebody knowing that like these foundation models that they're like that they're more comfortable with are running there.
I don't trust any cloud environment, Zach. You throw your data
Yeah,
out
well,
there.
again, right, but you're an engineer. Like a lot of people who are like everyday business consumers are not as worried about that, right? And they're like, oh, I know Anthropic's great, I know OpenAI is great, and like it's comforting to know those models are working underneath this product. And then I think it's
I
like
guess
there's
I
the balance
guess
between the
if
two.
they could, and I don't know if they have this, so I didn't look this right, but if they're going to somehow promising me SOC 2 compliance and HIPAA compliance and all this compliance, even though they're out there on the open public internet, then maybe it gets interesting, right? But everything's got to be SOC 2 today, right? That's the new thing,
Yeah,
and it,
an absolute racket, just sixty
but no,
thousand dollars a year to be
don't get
SOC
me
2
wrong,
compliant.
dude. I'm not saying
Yeah,
like it's like okay, I've encrypted my disk. Okay, yay, like
yeah. You
don't
ran
get
through
me
this checklist.
wrong.
Now pay $60,000 a year for the badge.
Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
definitely. I also think just the other side of that, to your good point, is that marketers are a little bit more traditionally open with their data. I mean, we're used to just plugging it into everything that told us that it would help our Facebook ads go up by a little bit. Like your Google Analytics, you can plug it into 1,000 things as a marketer in 6 months and not even remember. Like it's a little bit different than like your code, than your kind of core financials. Like
I
marketers
don't know.
as
You're
a
scaring the shit out of me, Zach. Do I got
marketers
to
as a
go ask
consumer
my
base,
marketing team
yeah,
now where
marketers
they've
as a
been
consumer
sending
base
data?
are a lot more open with plugging in integrations, because it's just kind of so core to like how most of the marketing industry functions.
You're scaring the shit out of me, Zach. Now I
But
got to
it's
go
also
talk to
like
my marketing team.
nobody care, yeah, nobody out there cares about your Google Ads data. So that's the other. I mean, it's just like there's of course like there's measures of security that are necessary, but at the same time like um I think there's a balance in the kind of the fear of it.
That's interesting. So now it's going to be interesting to see. So I hear your premise, right? Like the data we're dealing with isn't really that level of proprietary, and we're going to trust the privacy policies and the compliance that these platforms are
Well,
promising.
yeah, and consciously built
Right.
for it as well, right? Like we have a lot, we've put a lot of time and money into like making sure that that data's, you know, enterprise grade secure on Avery even before it goes out it goes out in an anonymized ways to the models that we work with. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I think it's, you know, the kind of like you won't meet many marketers who are like terrified of plugging their data into a new app.
But you also had to build a multi-tenant system, right? You're not
Hmm.
deploying something for every client. Everybody's That's another sort of like it's it's been done before. It's not novel, but it's still a really hard thing to do, right? Like really create security between everybody's data on a
Yeah,
cloud
yeah,
platform.
exactly. And to make and pretty much like, you know, pretty much each user, you know, is getting their own models. You know, it's like small versions of models pretty much where you can't have one user's, you know, inputs starting to train and adjust how like your larger model works for all your other users. Which, you know, in the early days was a challenge to figure out. Absolutely, of look like this is training, and then we use like our system architecture that we developed on the AI side. You know, even before OpenAI did it with ChatGPT recently, like actually has legitimate long-term memory and our like archival kind of operating system style agents that navigate through different memory tiers, and like that itself was a challenge of when you have all these different users, what information goes into the long-term memory of your AI system. And you know, you may work with certain marketing experts on your team who should have different access to different, you know,
True.
conversations with the AI. So
When do you use it?
there's a
How do
lot
you
of layers to it.
summarize it? No, that's an engineering feat. And there's new white papers coming out more and more now around how to design the model and the model servers to be more efficient with like what you're calling memory too, right? Like that's an engineering feat, especially when you're paying at the token level, right? Like bringing memory in when you didn't really need any of that memory.
Yeah,
It's kind of
exactly.
funny.
And when you, yeah, and just like all the like, I mean, kind of like RAG itself is a little bit outdated now. So like how modern teams are like building RAG style implementation of like training documents and things like that. And yeah, and, you know, and then you have like this massive amount of data that are coming in through marketing integrations every day. That how can you what is interesting for the, you know, for your AI to remember, and what is not helpful, and you know, yeah, it's a challenging space to build in, but it's a lot of fun.
What's your back end stack? You're doing a lot of Python? Are you doing any Go? Like what's your back end stack look
Yeah,
like?
almost all Python.
All Python. Do you
Yep.
not like I'm a Go developer, okay? And that's what I've been doing. And I've had to over the last year learn more Python than I ever thought I would. And the language itself, there's a lot of synergies between Python and Go. I see some things, but not having the concurrency and having to like spawn processes out essentially to get that level of scale, it's just
Hmm.
mind blowing to me that people are using it to build these massive systems, right? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about using something like Go? Because Go is getting better and better support for a
Yeah,
lot of this
yeah,
stuff.
we've messed around with it, and like I think it was kind of like from the very beginning, like so much of the app was Python that it's kind of like built upon itself, and now like the idea of like, but we you continue to like mess around with Go once in a while. So
Yeah, I try to do everything in Go until I can't, and then
hmm.
when I can't, I cry a little bit. But sometimes it's just a matter of just shelling out and using the Python as a CLI tool at some level, right? Like go do that, and then I can still do things concurrently. We're still in the very early ages, but um, I'm as a Go developer hoping to see more and more sort of native Go support for the things that are still native or and really not native Python. It's all C, right? Like Llama CPP and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that getting rewritten at some level in Go gets super interesting because once that happens, dude, like, do you really need? Do you want to run all that stuff in Python anymore? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
When?
well, when? Yeah. Well, somebody's got to sit down and decide to do it, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be me.
Yeah,
So
exactly. All right. So
it's not going to be me. Um, Well, that's really fascinating, dude. And this business now has been around for 3 years.
So we just launched. I mean, Avery has been around. We launched publicly October 2024. So we're coming up on our first year birthday post public launch. Started working on it January. I mean, started raised for it and started working on it January 24. So just about a year and a half old in this business, and it's been a whirlwind. I mean,
Year
even
and a
when we were
half.
in
You only
stealth.
got 6 months left, Zach. I mean, you do two
Yeah,
years.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I gotta bust
Well,
your
I've been,
chops there.
yeah. Well, I mean, from Select Few to Avery, I've been in this problem case in this business one way or the other for, coming on 6 years. And and if if we sold this business or something else, I would figure out a way to get back into this problem case with this team because it feels like the opportunity of a lifetime. And it's been the most fun challenge I've ever gotten to handle.
I'm
So.
going to ask you. I love asking the CEOs this question, and related to the business, right? What's keeping you up at night, Zach? Related to this business.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of what we talked about, keeping up with like finding our moment kind of in the sun in this like ridiculous hype wave that of AI at the moment. I mean, it's nice to be able to be building in something where everybody's told constantly like you got to be trying new AI stuff. You got to go use it. It's so much easier to get people to come and try Avery out than kind of like traditional SaaS acquisition systems and things used to be. But at the same time, like, yeah, are we building something right? Are we spending valuable engineering time and building something right now that in like 2, 3 months, the entire industry will shift again and user behavior and expectations will shift again, trying to keep up with the ridiculous kind of like expectations that ChatGPT sets for users of like I should get a perfect response back with 0.2 seconds of latency that remembers everything I've ever done and trying to find our place in all of that where we can still be extremely helpful to thousands and thousands of marketers is definitely kind of the main thing of that keeps me up. I mean, because it feels like we're blessed to be in this like ridiculous kind of moment and not wanting to miss our shot because we didn't stay at the office late enough or get the right product out fast enough is what keeps me up.
And then, how do you keep your head on straight when every week another company shows up somewhere and they're doing like 40 to 60% of what you do, and the other, say, 40% that they're not doing could really be great in your product, and you see that they're
Yeah.
going to find you
Yeah.
now and they could pull your 40% in. This happens to me every week with Prediction Guard, and I
Yeah.
panic at first, and then I try to assess what that's there and then try to get back to the business model. Like, how do you handle
Yeah.
that?
I
Because it's
think,
happening, right? It's
yeah.
happening.
Oh yeah, it happens daily. Somebody sends me some marketing AI tool, and I think there's a couple things. One is I really believe that like a rising tide lifts all ships. That the more people who like because we're in technology, I think we underestimate the like average business buyer and how much they've actually gotten into even trying using. Like I said, my mom was an entrepreneur. She like this week tried ChatGPT for the first time. It's like there's still a massive amount of business users out there that we need more great AI platforms to get people more comfortable with the product and the ideas behind it. So I really don't worry when people come out with more marketing AI. Also, the thing that makes us most unique at Avery is our blend of yeah, we're training our own models and making sure that AI can work well for you. But we have this amazing human network where we have all these human experts that you can get matched to. There are no other AI builders who are also insane enough to try and be marketplace builders because those are the most difficult types of businesses to build. And we're the only psychopaths that have decided to both build an AI and marketplace together, fused together all at the same time. And so, despite the fact that I see new like AI marketing agents pop up every day, I haven't seen anybody who's crazy enough to blend it with like real human talent and to also build and manage a marketplace. And so, that makes it easier to rest at night knowing that like nobody else is crazy enough to do what we're doing.
I also doubt anybody's crazy enough to put the money into training even small models, because that's not cheap. That's not like you just wake up and you say, let's go train a model. Like, that's going to
Yeah.
cost, I mean, to do it right, from everything I've ever read, like it's at least six figures at some level, even if it's
Yeah.
a small six
Yeah.
figures, right?
Small six figures is pretty accurate, but I mean that's why you raise venture and that's why you build the business. And I think there are certain things that don't people are trained in some models that don't really need to be trained. For the marketing use case, we really felt like just like engineering, that it was such a specialized act with so much nuance, that general models weren't going to work for how
And
people like
RAG,
actually
right?
function
You're
day to
gonna
day.
kick RAG's ass at that point because you've
Yeah,
yeah. But
exactly. And
it's
and just
investment.
like, yeah, the RAG, just the speed, but also just the massive, like how much you can pull from for context, all those things you need to build yourself. So
Yeah. How amazing will it be one day if you could get it to a point where training even a small model off of somebody's memory and everything you have can happen constantly, right? I mean, imagine that scenario. Now you've just got models that are just a brain, somebody's
yeah,
brain at that
no,
point, right?
exactly, and that's the goal for Avery, is that this really is like the marketing department's second brain. The marketing department struggle with constant turnover. There's a specialist you worked with 6 months ago that isn't there anymore. It's very different. You know, all your stuff's in Google Drive and Notion and all over the place. It's very difficult to like house learnings in marketing. Teams try and they build a spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet falls off 3 months later. And to really be able to have something that knows what worked and what hasn't worked and what different specialists did and how people pitched in to get things done over the course of years, on a marketing department level, is invaluable.
And being able to bring somebody new and get their mental model sort of
Yeah,
back up to
exactly.
where
And
it
have
is.
that
Yeah.
new person, have so much information about the types of people that work well at this organization and the type of person that would be a good fit for this for them. And not just like, oh, they need this person does, but this is we run like AI sentiment analysis on how you communicate with other people to break you into a personality type
So
to match you
so
up
you
better.
got a version one of this. Your MVP is has a version one of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
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 sweet.
exactly.
Sweet.
And what's up right now is our free plan. So Avery's free to get in and try out and to collaborate with. And then in October, we'll launch our first, what we've been working on for almost 8 months. So Plus, our first subscription tier, comes out with some of our biggest features that have been requested for a long time, and huge UI lift and a new model. And so we have a big October ahead on kind of like the year anniversary of when we first launched free plan.
It's pretty wild, dude. Well, interesting, man. From Ecuador to USC to building some businesses, and I guess you stayed in this marketing sort of space. This is what you love,
Yeah.
man. You love selling and
Love,
helping
love,
people
love,
sell.
love helping people, yeah, accomplish their dreams. Hated seeing friends who were founders or put their lives into a product fail because they couldn't, because they got taken advantage of by some agency down the street, or tried to, burned all their capital trying to get customers to their product in the right way. And we wanted to see more people, more people's dreams be able to actually work out because they were able to run their marketing efficiently.
Brilliant. All right. Well, we are completely out of time, Zach. So,
Just an hour
um,
over.
an hour over. I always do it a good hour and a half. I don't
Good. I
know
love
who's telling you.
it.
What
It's been fun.
was I going to say? Okay, we'll have this in the show notes. But if anybody wanted to reach out after listening, what's the best way for somebody to reach out and ask you a question or two?
Yeah, email me anytime. It's Zack Holland, at Avery.ai. Avery's Averi. It starts and ends in AI. And you can always email me, come try out Avery for free at Averi.ai, or yeah, email me at ZH.
Brilliant. All right. So this is Zach and Bill signing off from the Ardan Labs podcast. We hope to see everybody again real soon.